Hi everyone, I'm cutting this a little bit fine, leaving it a bit late to do the introduction. But the first story tonight is from Scottish, more specifically the Orkney Isles folklore. It's most commonly known, I think, as the Seal Wife. It's about a Selkie. A Selkie is a fey creature, so kind of an otherworldly fairy creature who looks very much like a seal, but they can remove their skins to reveal a human form underneath. There's a lot of different versions of this story. I've kind of chosen my favourite elements of it to tell this one, and also there's a very beautiful animated version of it which was out a few years ago called Song of the Sea. So I hope you enjoy this. There was a farmer at Westmas on the Isle of Rouse in the Orkneys, and he was teased often by his friends, for he was unmarried and he didn't seem to have any interest in women whatsoever. But he would shrug this off, and he worked hard and he worked well. The farm became very wealthy. One evening, while the farmer was walking down by the shoreline, he heard splashing and laughter. Some Selkie people had come to shore and taken off their skins. Well, the farmer crept close down to the shore behind rocks. And as he ran out from behind a rock, the Selkie saw him, grabbed their skins and dived back into the sea, swimming off in their seal forms. But not before the farmer managed to grab one of the skins. As he made his way back home up off the shore, he heard a sobbing and a wailing behind him, and he turned, and there before him was a vision that struck him dumb. It was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen in his entire life. He was rendered almost speechless. The woman sobbed and cried that she could not go back to the sea, could not go back to her home without her skin, which he now held. The farmer suggested that she come and live with him. He was not prepared to give up such a beautiful woman. He was not prepared to give her back her skin. Well, the woman had little choice. She was fairly charmed by the farmer's words. He was a fair and good man. She went back and lived with him. They lived together for a very long while. They were married. The woman bore him 7 children, 4 boys and 3 girls. And it did seem that they loved each other. But sometimes the farmer's wife would look out to the sea or sit on the shore and sing the saddest, most beautiful of songs. One day, the farmer took his 4 sons to work with him in the fields. And while they were away, his wife sent out 2 of the girls to collect shellfish from the shore. The 3rd girl had hurt her foot and could not go with them. Left alone with her youngest daughter, the farmer's wife began searching the farmhouse. At first she made it look as if she was tidying, but the youngest girl then asked, "Mama, what is it you're looking for?" I'm looking for a fine skin or cloth so I may make a bandage for your foot." The girl's face brightened. I know where you can find such a thing. Father, when he thought none of us were looking, took down a skin from the eaves above your bed. He looked at it and felt it and stroked it and then folded it and put it back. The farmer's wife kissed her daughter, ran up the stairs into their bedroom, searched the eaves, the rafters. Sure enough, there was her skin. She ran back downstairs, past her daughter, bidding her, "Farewell, my love." She ran down to the shore, put on her seal skin, dived into the sea and away. The farmer and his sons returned home that evening, find his 3 daughters waiting, his wife and their mother nowhere to be seen. The youngest daughter told him what had happened. Well, he understood. She had never really belonged to him. She'd always longed to go back to the sea, back to her home. And he had kept her from it. He was sad for the longest time after that. But it was said that they would all sometimes walk down by the shore. More often than not, a seal would come closer than any of the others, and it would sing to them. Sing a sad and beautiful song. Hello again. Next story tonight is the first of a 2-parter. I'm trying that out, see if it works. It is called Assipattle and the Stoorworm. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Again, it is a Scottish folktale. And again, there's a few different versions. I've blended elements from a couple of different ones that I read. I hope you, as always, I hope you enjoy it. If you want part 2, be sure you subscribe, and that will be up on Wednesday night. So, until then, stay safe everyone, and enjoy. An old farmer had a farm by the name of Leagarth, which lay in a valley surrounded by hills through which a fresh brook ran. He was married and he had 7 sons. They all worked hard on the farm, except for the youngest son. He would do nothing but sweep the fireplace and tend the fire. He was something of a dreamer. And because this is all he did, he was always covered with ash. And when he went out and the wind blew, blow the ash from him as if he was a fireplace himself. Because of this, he was named Assipattle. And his brothers really didn't think much of him. They would constantly tease and torment him and bully him. Now, one day, some terrible news came to the land. The master Stoorworm had been seen approaching the coast. This was no ordinary Stoorworm. This was the oldest and largest of the Stoorworms, said to have been made by the devil himself. It was so large, when it rested, it wrapped its entire body around all the oceans of the world. It said its breath was so poisonous that it could decimate entire countries. It had a huge forked tongue which it would use to draw its prey in. Crack open ships and drag them down to the depths. If it came close enough to land, could reach up and smash castles from the rocks. And as it approached the coastline, it gave a great yawn, indicating its hunger. The king of the realm called his wisest advisors together to ask what they could do to appease or get rid of this terrible Stoorworm. Well, they consulted for hours, days, with no solution. Eventually, a wise man, a spaeman, a sorcerer, some said, was called to the king's court. He thought long and hard, and after a while, he gave this only solution to keep the Stoorworm at bay was that every Saturday 7 young maidens must be fed to appease the great worm's hunger. And so it was. One Saturday morning, the farmer of Leagarth and his family went to the top of one of the hills to watch the starworm be fed. It was a terrible sight. The 7 maidens were bound upon the shore, the starworm's great tongue snaked out, and then its fork picked up each of the young girls and devoured them. The farmer and his family felt quite sick watching this, until Assipattle spoke up. I'm not scared of it. I'd fight it. His brothers kicked him to the ground and teased him all the way home. That evening, Assipattle's mother sent him out to the barn to fetch his brothers. They were preparing the straw to feed to the cattle that evening. When he came in with the message, they threw him to the ground and began covering him with the straw. Indeed, they would have covered and suffocated him had his mother's father turned up to see what the matter was and dragged him out from under the pile. When they sat round the dinner table, his father asked Assipattle, why didn't he stand up for himself? Oh, I didn't need your help. I could have beat them, but I was saving my strength to fight the master starworm. Well, his brothers laughed and teased him. His father shook his head, said, I'll make spoons from the horns of the moon before you fight that monster. Now, the sacrifice of 7 young maidens each week was becoming quite a burden on the land. People went again to the king. The king called again his council. The council called again the wise man, the sorcerer, who thought long and hard. Well, the only way for sure to get rid of this stoorworm, to end all of this, was to feed it the most beautiful of all the girls in the land, the king's daughter, the princess. The king hung his head and he nodded. His bloodline was said to have been descended from Odin itself. It only seemed right that one of them should give their lives to save the land. But he asked for a 3-week reprieve. 3 weeks. He would send out word to the champions of the realm to come and fight this monster. And if they could defeat the starworm, he would promise them the hand of the princess and his ancient sword, Snickersnapper, said to have been forged by Odin himself and handed down through the generations, through the bloodlines. Well, 36 brave souls took up the challenge. But when they arrived, they stood on the shore and looked out over the sea to the stoorworm. 12 of them fell so ill with fear they had to be carried home. Another 12 just straight off ran away. The remaining 12, well, they may not have fallen ill, they may not have run off, but they weren't really much better. They stayed in the king's castle, half-heartedly feasting and drinking, waiting for the day of the battle. The king looked upon them with scorn, and he decided that he himself would face the worm. he would take his sword, Snickersnapper. He would take a boat out to the sea, and he would battle this creature single-handedly. Now, the night before the battle, Assipattle's family had made the decision that they would go out, they would ride to see the great fight, to see the king take on the worm. The farmer's wife was uncertain about going. The farmer said she could ride behind him on his horse, Tietgong, the fastest horse in the land. And this gave rise to an argument. The horse would only listen to the farmer, no one else. The farmer's wife, in tears, said that if he really loved her, as he said he did, he would finally tell her the secret. Well, the farmer softened, and he told her that the way to control Tietgong was to approach the horse, to calm it, to make it still, pat it upon the left shoulder. To make the horse move again, pat it upon the right shoulder. And to get Tietgong to run faster than any horse in the land, blow on a whistle made from the throat of a goose. And the farmer revealed to his wife that he kept such a whistle in his overcoat by the door. The farmer's wife kissed him and they went to bed. Now Assipattle had overheard all of this. When he was quite sure that everyone else in the farmhouse was asleep, he snuck out to the stables, to Tietgong. Upon seeing him, Tietgong began to rear and whinny. But Assipattle quickly went, tapped him upon the left shoulder. The horse was still, allowing Assipattle to climb on his back. When he was ready, tapped the horse on its right shoulder, and off they went, riding out of the stables, out of the farm. It made such a noise that it woke the entire household. The farmer looked out the window and saw his prize horse being ridden away towards the coast. "Hi, hi, ho, Tietgong!" he called, and the horse stopped dead at its master's voice. At this, Assipattle reached into his pocket, took out the goose whistle that he had taken from his father's overcoat by the door, and blew upon it. Tietgong took off at such speed it stole the breath from out of Assipattle's lungs. But he was away, he was off, riding hard and fast towards the coast, hoping to beat the sunrise and the battle that would come.